Your host, Double Krown.
Social justice warriors, they seem to be everywhere. They're on the internet, and there's one called Claudia Berlin. She's on YouTube. You might want to check out her channel. I've been listening to her recently, and I want to tell you why social justice warriors are wrong. But some of them may hold some genuine views and opinions on certain things. I don't dispute that, but I believe many of them have been misled. They've been misled, and perhaps they've been tricked, perhaps they've been fooled into what exactly social justice means, because listening to somebody like Claudia Berlin, she goes into a lot of detail, and she will explain some of the things that are wrong, badly wrong with the social justice movement. But what is a social justice warrior? Well, the online definition, if you like, is somebody who holds socially progressive views. They're into things like feminism, political correctness, multiculturalism, and identity politics. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell is identity politics? So identity politics is actually this idea of having political alliances, exclusive political alliances based on identity and characteristics. So in a way, social justice warriors are exclusive, which means they are quite elitist. So many of the things that you think that they stand for, in a way, it's almost like an inversion. So the classic social justice warriors, well, let's take some famous people that you might, that I might regard as social justice warriors. I mean, these are political figures. They're not, known to be social justice warriors as such. That seems to be an internet phenomena. But people that I would put into that category, people like Barack Obama. Now, Barack Obama, a black leader of the Western world, who you think is going to improve the lives of the disadvantaged in America, the poor black population. But of course, we've seen under his watch black unemployment double. So often these characters who you think are going to improve things actually make things much worse. And another one is Hillary Clinton, for example. Now, she's not gained office yet, but you think of Hillary Clinton, you think, well, she might stand for women's rights. But there's a good chance that once she gets into power, she might end up diminishing women's rights. And of course, in the UK, we've had our own social justice warrior in the form of Tony Blair. And he, when he got into power with the Labour Party, of course, the Conservatives had had a long spell in power with Margaret Thatcher, 3 terms. And Tony Blair suddenly comes in, and you think that things are going to improve, things are going to get better, that the Labour Party will improve workers' rights, etc. But what does he do? He gets us into a war, into a bloody war with Iraq, which costs the lives of hundreds of British soldiers and hundreds of thousands of Iraqi citizens and civilians. So again, this whole social justice movement, it doesn't seem to be serving the purpose that we think it's going to do. And this is a typical trend. When you see somebody in prominence, a black figure in prominence, you usually find that black rights are diminished. Similarly, if you see a feminist in power, a woman in power, for example, Margaret Thatcher, you tend to find that women's rights are actually diminished. Women's lives get worse. And this is a feature of this whole social justice movement. So why would anyone want to become a social justice warrior? Well, I think there are plenty of attractive things about it. For example, they like to call people out. They like to judge people. They like to condemn people. It gives them a chance to judge people and to preach to them. It gives them a chance to say that I'm right, you're wrong. And that's the whole essence of the idea of becoming a social justice warrior. So I think it's very, very problematic, and it's a serious risk to society of fragmenting society. And they have a range of tactics that they use. They often target vulnerable people. But they won't tackle the elite. You know, where the problem really lies, where things like sexism, racism, elitism, where this all stems from, you know, from the seriously rich and the seriously elite. They will never ever tackle those people. No, because they're probably funded by them. So they will instead tackle normal people, normal citizens, you know, perhaps the weak, the vulnerable, and they will call you out. They will tell you that you are a sexist pig. They will tell you that you are a racist. That it gives them, you know, they're claiming higher status for themselves, and they're claiming that you are a second-class citizen, in effect. So that seems to be the aim of the social justice warrior and this whole social justice movement. So think of a child. Just imagine if you have a child and you call them out every time they do something wrong. If you pick on them, you know, and tell them that they're wrong, they will soon end up traumatized. It's not something you do, is it? You don't do that to your own children. So why would you do that to other people? And that's what the social justice warrior wants to do. They want to call you out. They want to tell you that you're wrong. I mean, if you told a child off every time they used the word black, and said that was racist, they would soon end up very, very confused, and they'd probably end up being a very troubled teenager when they grow up. So you wouldn't do that to a child. And of course, it's not the child who's racist by using the word black. It's really the parent who calls the child out for using that word, because the idea of racism probably hadn't even entered into the child's head. You know, the social justice parent, they are the ones that have pushed this narrative onto the child. They are the ones that are telling them this is racist, that is racist, this is sexist, that is sexist, where perhaps the child was quite innocently doing something, and it didn't even pop into their heads that was that racism or sexism should come into it, you know. But this is the narrative that's being pushed. And that's the risk when you call people out. Of course, you're telling them that they're wrong when perhaps that they're racist, that they're sexist, when perhaps they hadn't even been thinking about that. Of course, there are genuine racists and there are genuine sexists out there, but you know, they are the minority, and the social justice warriors, in effect, are possibly the true racists, because they are the ones pushing this narrative. They are the ones pushing this agenda and telling everybody to think about racism where none exists, and to think about sexism where none exists. And that is one of the problems with the whole social justice movement. But another feature is the whole idea of calling people out. Because, of course, that creates this atmosphere of dog eat dog. This idea of just stabbing everybody else in the back, calling people out. And you should check out my video on the reporting culture, which goes into some ideas about that as well. But one of the tactics, and they've even got tactics. One of the tactics that the social justice movement will use is a term called doxing, and they even have special words for it. You see, so they've created a whole lexicon, a whole alphabet, a whole dictionary of terms and words that they can refer to. Doxing is one of them. So this is a genuine attack on society in a way from the social justice movement on innocent people, on just your average person, your average Joe, your everyday man walking down the street. This is an attack on you, telling you that you are wrong, because they've created words like doxing, which means that doxing is an online term, which means that they're going to reveal your name and address to everybody online, and perhaps they will even send people around or encourage people to have you isolated, to have you bullied, to have you targeted, so basically they're a bunch of bullies. The whole social justice movement, that's what it's about. It's about bullying people, and they've even created this library of words to refer to different things. So this is a real threat to society, and of course this is leading to the fragmentation of society, of people just reporting on everybody else, of people just calling everybody else out, of this dog-eat-dog culture that we live in, and of everybody just stabbing everybody else in the back. So what does your average social justice warrior look like? Well, think of an aggressive, predatory male. Somebody who's big and strong, somebody who eats women, somebody who eats other men. Now, I use the term eat figuratively, if you like. It can range from anything. They might eat them, but they might just target women or harass women, or target other men or harass other men. So I use that term eat figuratively. But think of somebody like that. They have no real interests in women's rights. But then all of a sudden, this aggressive, predatory alpha male will then declare himself a feminist, although he has no real interest in feminine rights. But why would he do that? He becomes a feminist so that he can use that as a weapon to attack other males, perhaps. So if another man says something sexist, he can call them out on it. He can target them, and he can claim that he is more pious, more righteous, the better human being, even though his very aim was specifically just to target other people. So this is the type of person who might get involved with the social justice warrior movement. I would say somebody who is a wolf dressed in sheep's clothing. This is the type of person, and typically they might pick people like women. Therefore, they can't be accused of sexism. They might include people of mixed race, so they can't be accused of racism. They might include black males, for example. Again, they can't be accused of racism, and they will often pick strong, powerful, confident individuals to join this social justice warrior movement, because they need strong, powerful individuals to target other people. And of course, they never ever target the elite. They just target ordinary, weak citizens of the country.